The ship Unity floated quietly in deep space. Inside, lights blinked along the metal walls, and the soft hum of the engines made a calm background sound. Tom, a young human technician, stepped carefully through the hallway. He held a small bag and a data pad that showed his room number. Tom had been chosen to join the first joint mission between humans and the Trelax, an alien race known for their strength and warrior training. Tom wasn't strong, he wasn't brave, but he was smart and quiet, and he fixed things quickly. That was why he was here. He stopped in front of a grey door marked Room 17B. He took a deep breath and pressed the button. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was very small. One wall had a bed barely wide enough for one person. A locker and a narrow desk stood on the other side. There wasn't much space to walk, but that wasn't the real surprise. Sitting on the edge of the bed was Rima, a tall Trelax warrior with deep green skin and sharp golden eyes. Her black armor looked strong, and her long white hair was tied back. She looked at Tom and gave a small nod. "You must be Tom," she said. Her voice was calm and deep. Tom nodded quickly. "Yes. That's me. I'm Rima. We are sharing this room." Tom blinked. "Just this room?" "Yes," she replied. "This ship is full. 2 crew members per room." Tom looked at the bed, then at her. "But there's only one bed." Rima stood up and looked at the bed like she was thinking. Then she shrugged. "This room is too small," she said simply. "I'll just sleep on top of you." Tom's mouth opened, but no words came out. "I do not need much space," Rima added. "I will not crush you." I see," Tom said, looking down. Rima stepped back and let Tom put his bag down. He moved slowly, trying not to make things awkward. His mind raced. This was going to be a long mission. Later that evening, they both prepared for rest. Rima removed her outer armor and placed it neatly in the corner. Underneath, she wore a dark suit made of soft fabric. Tom had changed into his sleep clothes too, but he still didn't understand what sleeping on top really meant. Rima lay down first, flat on her back. "Come," she said, patting the space next to her. Tom carefully lay down on the very edge of the bed. He tried not to touch her. He felt stiff as a board. "You are shaking," Rima said, her eyes half closed. "Relax. I'm not used to this," Tom whispered. "Trelax soldiers sleep close during travel. It saves space and keeps body warmth," she explained. Tom didn't answer. His face was red, but he tried to breathe slowly. Without warning, Rima shifted and gently placed her arm across his chest. Then she rested her head just above his shoulder. She was heavy but not painful, warm but not too hot. Her breathing slowed. Tom stared at the ceiling. He couldn't sleep, not yet. But after a while, the hum of the ship, the steady rhythm of Rima's breathing, and the soft weight of her beside him began to calm his thoughts. His eyes slowly closed. Rima whispered one last thing before sleep took her. "You are soft, but not weak." Tom didn't know what to say, so he said nothing at all. The room was quiet, and for the first time, they both slept. Tom woke up to the sound of the ship's morning chime. His body was stiff, and his arms were pinned. At first he couldn't move. Then he remembered. He wasn't trapped. He was just under Rima. The Trelax warrior still lay half on top of him. Her arm was across his chest, her leg across his, and her face close to his neck. She looked peaceful, calm. Tom, however, felt like he hadn't slept at all. He slowly turned his head and whispered, "Rima." She didn't move. He tried. Again, just a little louder. "Rima?" Her golden eyes opened halfway. She blinked once, then looked at him. "You are awake," she said. "Yes." Tom said carefully. I can't feel my arm. Rima sat up slowly, stretching her arms. You should have told me. I forgot humans are not used to close contact. Tom sat up too, rubbing his shoulder. It's okay, I didn't want to be rude. You were not crushed, she said, almost like a joke. Barely, Tom muttered. Rima stood and began putting on her armor. She moved with ease, like she had done this 1,000 times before. Tom watched her silently. She wasn't just strong. She was graceful, like a wild animal trained for battle. After they were both dressed, they left the room for breakfast. The ship's dining hall was filled with crew members from different species. Some were tall with long arms, others had scales or soft fur. Tom sat with his tray and ate quietly. Rima joined him without asking. A Tralax warrior at a nearby table looked at Rima, then at Tom. He raised an eyebrow. Already sharing sleep space? He asked Rima. She is my room partner, Tom said quickly. The warrior laughed. Human skin must be warm. Very, Rima said with a straight face. Tom nearly choked on his juice. Later that day, Tom worked in the engineering section of the ship. He ran checks on power cables, cooling pipes, and data cores. His job was not exciting, but it was important. If the engine stopped, the whole ship would be in danger. As he checked the systems, he thought about the night again. He had never been that close to anyone before. Rima was strong, serious, and didn't seem to care what others thought. Tom was careful, quiet, and used to being alone. They were very different. Still, something about her made him curious. That evening, Tom returned to the room. Rima was already there, sharpening a long dagger with a black stone. The sound was slow and steady. How was your work? She asked without looking up. Normal, Tom said, putting his tools away. No problems today, she nodded. That is good. There was silence for a moment. Tom finally asked, Do you always sleep so close on missions? Yes, Rima said. Tralax warriors are trained to rest near each other during space travel. It builds trust. Tom sat on the edge of the bed. I see. Humans don't really do that. I know, Rima said. She looked at him. But you did not push me away. Tom smiled a little. I didn't want to get thrown across the room. I would not do that, she said calmly, unless you deserved it. They both chuckled softly. Later, as the lights dimmed for night, Rima lay down again. This time, she gave Tom more space. But just before sleep, she shifted a little closer. You are small, but not weak, she said. That is rare. Tom didn't know how to respond. He just nodded and said, Good night. Rima closed her eyes. Good night, Tom. This time, Tom didn't stay awake for long. He slept deeply, even with her beside him. The days passed quietly aboard the Unity. Tom's work was steady, his days filled with routine tasks that required focus and attention to detail. He was used to being alone with machines, but now, every night, he had to share his room with Rima. The awkwardness from the first night slowly began to fade. Every evening, Rima would enter the room, remove her armor, and sit by the bed. Tom would quietly sit on the edge, trying to keep a little distance. But Rima was different from any person Tom had ever met. She wasn't shy, she didn't mind closed spaces, and she certainly didn't hesitate to speak her mind. One evening, after they both finished their work, Tom glanced at her. She was polishing a piece of equipment, a sharp, curved blade that she kept close at all times. Do you really need to carry that everywhere? Tom asked, his voice curious. Rima looked up and smiled slightly. Yes, it is part of me. Every warrior has a weapon. Mine is not just for battle. It is a tool to remind me of my mission. Tom tilted his head. What's your mission? She paused for a moment. To protect the Tralax, to honor my people, and to explore the universe. Tom nodded. That's pretty big. It is, she agreed. But it is simple. You have your own mission, Tom. To fix things. Tom smiled. Yeah, I guess I do. The room was quiet for a while. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship's engines and the rhythmic sound of Rima sharpening her blade. Tom got up to grab his datapad, but before he could sit down again, Rima spoke. Tom, she said, would you like to talk? He looked up, surprised. Talk? Yes, I have been on many missions. I have met many humans. But I do not understand everything about you. You are different. Tom raised an eyebrow. Different how? You are quiet. You hide your emotions, Rima explained, but I can see you care. You care about your work. You care about others. Tom blinked, unsure of how to respond. He wasn't used to someone noticing that much about him. He thought for a moment, then answered softly. I guess I'm just not good at showing it. I'm not like you. Rima's golden eyes softened slightly. And I am not like you either. But maybe that is why we can work well together. Tom hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yeah, maybe. That night, when they prepared to sleep, Rima lay down first. Tom was still thinking about their conversation. He wasn't used to being understood so easily. Rima didn't judge him, she just saw him, and for some reason that made him feel less alone. The bed was small, as usual. But this time, Tom lay down closer to the center, feeling the warmth from Rima's body beside him. She did not move too much, but he could feel her presence, strong and steady. He found himself more relaxed. I'm sorry if I make you uncomfortable, Rima said softly, breaking the silence. Tom shook his head, looking over at her. You don't make me uncomfortable. I'm just not used to sharing space like this. Rima nodded. I understand. But this is how we grow close. This is how we trust each other. Tom thought about it. I guess that makes sense. She smiled faintly. We can share space, Tom, but we can also share stories. Maybe one day you will tell me more about your world. Tom smiled back. I'd like that. As they settled in for the night, Rima shifted just a little closer, but this time Tom didn't mind. There was no awkwardness in the air, only a quiet understanding, and for the first time in a long time, Tom felt at ease. The next few days aboard the Unity were busy. Tom worked in the engine room, making sure everything ran smoothly. The ship had been traveling through deep space for weeks, and any small mistake could mean disaster. Tom was good at his job. India knew how to fix things, whether it was a broken power cable or a cooling system that wasn't working right. But even the best technicians sometimes missed something. It was late one evening when he noticed something strange. The power output from the engine was fluctuating, pulsing in ways it shouldn't. Tom frowned. That wasn't good. If the engine wasn't stable, it could cause a chain reaction and put the whole ship in danger. He quickly ran a diagnostic on the system, checking each part carefully. The numbers didn't add up. Something was interfering with the power flow. Something or someone. Tom's fingers moved faster as he worked. The ship's control center sent him a warning that the cooling system was malfunctioning, which meant the engine was getting too hot. He didn't have much time. He sent an urgent message to Rima. Rima, he typed quickly. I need your help in the engine room. Something's wrong. A few moments later, her response came back. On my way. Rima arrived within minutes, her steps echoing in the hallway as she walked with purpose. When she entered the engine room, her eyes immediately went to the system screen. She scanned the information in a second, her sharp mind working quickly. What is happening? She asked, her voice low. I'm not sure, Tom replied. I think someone's messing with the systems. It looks like a power leak. Leak? Rima said, kneeling beside him and looking at the control panel. That is dangerous. We must fix it fast. Tom nodded. We need to isolate the source of the leak. I think it's coming from the central core. Rima's eyes narrowed. I will check the core. You stay here and monitor the systems. Tom watched her move with confidence, her movements fast and smooth. He admired her strength and skill. He also felt a little nervous. This was serious. If they didn't fix it in time, the whole ship could be in danger. As Rima worked her way through the maze of wires and pipes in the engine room, Tom stayed focused on the control panel. He monitored the temperature readings, heart pounding. The power levels were still unstable and the temperature was rising quickly. Rima, hurry, he called out. I'm almost there, she shouted back. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, Rima's voice came over the comms. I found it. Someone has tampered with the cooling system. The central core is overheating because of a damaged valve. Tom's eyes widened. Is it repairable? Rima's voice was steady. Yes, but it will take time. You must keep the systems from overloading. Tom's hands flew over the control panel as he worked to stabilize the power levels. Sweat dripped down his forehead, and his heart raced as the temperature crept higher. I can't hold it much longer, Tom said, his voice tight. There was a moment of silence. Then Rima spoke again. I have sealed the valve. Cooling system is working again. Tom breathed a sigh of relief. The temperature started to drop as the cooling system kicked in. We did it, Tom said, exhausted but relieved. Rima appeared in the doorway, wiping her hands on a cloth. You did well, Tom, she said, her voice calm. You stayed focused. Tom smiled weakly. We did it together. Rima nodded. Yes, that is how we work. As the two of them made their way back to their room, Tom felt the weight of the night's events settle on him. He had worked with Rima under pressure, and it felt good to know they could rely on each other. When they entered the room, Rima removed her armor and sat down on the bed. She looked at Tom and said, You are not as weak as you think. Tom chuckled softly. Thanks. Rima gave him a small smile. I am proud to have you as my partner. Tom sat down beside her. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but tonight he knew one thing for sure. They made a great team. The next few days passed peacefully. Tom and Rima had grown comfortable in their shared space. They spent their days working on different parts of the ship, but in the evenings they would always meet in their room. Tom had stopped feeling awkward about the small space and the close quarters. They didn't talk much at first, but over time they had started sharing small moments. Rima told Tom about her home planet, a world full of dense jungles and mountains that stretched high into the sky. She spoke of the strength and honor of the Trelax warriors and how they trained from a young age to protect their people. Tom listened, fascinated. He had never met anyone like her. She wasn't just a soldier, she was someone who carried her culture, her history, and her people's expectations on her shoulders. As for Tom, he shared stories of Earth, of the small town he grew up in, and the machines he had always been fascinated by. He talked about the feeling of fixing something broken, how it gave him a sense of purpose. One evening, as they were preparing for bed, Tom noticed something new. Rima was sitting by the bed, her usual serious expression replaced with something softer. She was holding a small object in her hands, turning it over carefully. What's that? Tom asked. Rima glanced at him, then back down at the object. It is a family heirloom, she said quietly. A symbol of my clan. Tom moved, closer, curious. It's beautiful, he said. The object was small, made of silver and had intricate designs carved into it. It looked old but well cared for. It was passed down from my ancestors, Rima explained. It is said to hold the strength of my people. Tom nodded, feeling the weight of the story behind it. It must mean a lot to you. Rima gave a small smile. It does, but I do not show it often. I can see why, Tom said. It's something important to you. I respect that. Rima nodded, looking thoughtful. You understand more than I thought. Tom looked down at his hands. I guess we're not that different. Rima's eyes softened. No, we are not. They both sat in silence for a moment, the quiet of the room surrounding them. Then, with a sigh, Rima put the heirloom on the small table beside the bed. I will sleep on the side tonight, she said, lying down on the other edge of the bed. You need your space, Tom. Tom shook his head. It's okay. I'm used to it. But, Rima insisted, I do not want you to feel uncomfortable. Tom smiled. I'm not uncomfortable, really. She nodded, still unsure. I will stay here if you need me. Thanks, Rima, Tom said softly. As the lights dimmed, the ship's usual hum filled the silence. Tom lay still, his mind wandering, back to the day's events. The way Rima had shared her past with him, the quiet moments where they had just been two people in the same room, learning about each other. After a while, Rima shifted, closer again this time, but gently. Her warmth was comforting, not heavy. They both lay quietly, the only sound being the soft rhythm of their breathing. Rima broke the silence once more. Tom. You're different. You do not speak much, but your heart is kind. I see it in the way you work, Tom smiled, feeling a little shy at the praise. Thanks, Rima. You're not so bad yourself. She chuckled softly. I am strong, but strength alone is not enough. You are the balance. Tom blinked, surprised. Balance? Rima nodded. Strength without balance can break everything. You bring that balance. Together we are strong. Tom didn't know what to say to that. He hadn't thought of himself as someone who brought balance. But in that moment, lying there in the small room with Rima, it felt true. Maybe they weren't so different after all. The quiet of the room wrapped around them like a blanket, and Tom slowly drifted off to sleep. For the first time in a long time, he felt at peace knowing that for whatever reason, he and Rima had formed an unexpected but strong bond. The Unity continued its journey through deep space, and life aboard the ship had settled into a predictable rhythm. Each day, Tom worked in the engineering section, carefully maintaining the ship's systems. Every evening, Rima would join him in their small room. Tom had gotten used to her presence, even looked forward to it. Her sharp mind and calm demeanor were a source of comfort, and over time, he realized that they had developed an understanding that didn't need many words. One evening, after a long day of work, Tom sat on the edge of the bed, finishing up his datapad checks. Rima sat across from him, cleaning her gear, her focus intense as usual. There was something about her quiet strength that made Tom feel at ease. Rima, Tom said, breaking the silence, do you ever miss home? Rima paused, her eyes lifting from the weapon she had been cleaning. For a moment, her gaze softened. I do, she admitted, her voice low. But I carry my people with me in my heart. The stars are wide, but my clan's spirit is always with me. Tom nodded slowly, trying to understand. I get that. I've never been far from Earth, but I always carry pieces of it with me, little things. Like the sound of the wind or the smell of fresh rain. That is a good way to remember, Rima said. The little things, Tom smiled at her. Yeah. They sat in silence for a while, the soft hum of the ship surrounding them. It was peaceful, even though the room was small, and they had shared this space for weeks now. After a long pause, Rima finally spoke. You are always calm, Tom. Even when the ship is in danger, you do not panic. Tom looked up, surprised. I guess it's just the way I am. I focus on the problem, not the fear. I think that is good, Rima said. I sometimes feel fear, but I do not show it. It is a weakness in my people to show fear. Tom tilted his head. You're allowed to feel fear, you know, even if you don't show it. Rima raised an eyebrow, surprised by his words. You think so? Tom nodded. Of course, it's human nature. We all feel fear sometimes, but it doesn't make us weak. It makes us human. Rima was quiet for a moment, considering his words. Then slowly she said, I think you are right. The conversation shifted, and for the first time in a while, they found themselves talking not about work, or the mission, or even survival. They were just two people talking about their feelings, their lives, and their worlds. Tom was amazed at how easy it felt. It was strange to have this kind of conversation with someone so different from him, but it felt natural. As the night settled in, they prepared for bed. Rima lay down first, as she usually did. But tonight, there was something different in the air. A sense of calm, of peace, that hadn't been there before. Tom lay down beside her, and for the first time, he didn't feel the usual awkwardness of being close to someone else. Instead, he felt comfortable, he was beginning to understand Rima in a way he hadn't expected. Rima, sensing his shift in mood, spoke quietly. I trust you, Tom. Her words took him by surprise. You trust me? Rima nodded, her voice steady. Yes. You are a quiet strength. I do not often trust easily, but with you I do. Tom smiled, feeling something warm stir in his chest. I trust you too, Rima. I've never had a partner like you before. She looked over at him, her golden eyes thoughtful. We are not alike, Tom, but that does not mean we cannot work together. No, Tom agreed, his voice soft. It doesn't. The room was quiet again, but this time there was no tension, no awkwardness, only a sense of mutual respect and understanding. As the ship's lights dimmed, Tom drifted off to sleep, his mind calm. For the first time since he'd boarded the Unity, he felt truly at peace in this tiny room with Rima. The following morning, Tom woke up early, as he always did. The soft glow of the ship's lights filled the room, and the hum of the engines was a familiar, calming sound. Rima was still asleep beside him, her breathing steady and even. He smiled, quietly to himself, feeling grateful for the calm they had both found in their unusual situation. Tom got up and started his morning routine. He needed to check the engine systems before anything else. The Unity had been traveling smoothly, but there were always small repairs to handle. After finishing his work in the engine room, he made his way back to their shared room. Rima was awake now, sitting by the small table polishing her blade. The sight of her so focused on her task made Tom pause for a moment. It was clear that this was a warrior who took great pride in her skills and her traditions. Good morning, Tom said as he entered the room. Rima glanced up and gave him a small smile. Good morning, Tom. She stood and stretched, the quiet muscles of her body flexing with practiced ease. The stars are clear today, she added, glancing out of the small window beside them. Tom nodded, following her gaze. I can see that. It's beautiful out there. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The quiet was comfortable, like an old friendship. They had settled into this routine, and even though their situation was far from normal, it felt right. Just then, the ship's intercom buzzed, breaking the silence. A voice came through the speaker. Attention, crew. We have received a new mission order from the Council. All personnel are to report to the briefing room immediately. Repeat, all personnel. Report to the briefing room. Tom exchanged a glance with Rima. Looks like we've got work to do, he said, grabbing his tools. Rima nodded, slipping her blade into its sheath. Let's see what they need. They made their way to the briefing room, where several other crew members had already gathered. The room was filled with an air of anticipation. The captain, a tall and serious-looking woman named Maris, stood at the front, her eyes scanning the room as the last few crew members arrived. "Thank you all for coming quickly," Captain Maris said. "We've just received a communication from a nearby colony. They're reporting strange activity in their system. Ships have gone missing and there have been reports of unidentified signals. They need our help." Tom frowned, his mind racing. Missing ships. That's not good. Captain Maris nodded gravely. "No, it's not. We need to investigate the source of these disappearances. Our mission is to travel to the colony's location, offer assistance, and find out what's going on." Rima stepped forward, her expression serious. "Do we know if this is a threat to the colony?" "We don't know yet," Maris replied. "But we have to prepare for the possibility that it is. We're going to need everyone on high alert. This could be a trap, or worse, an invasion." The room fell silent for a moment as everyone absorbed the information. Tom felt a knot of tension form in his stomach. This wasn't the kind of mission he had signed up for. He was used to fixing engines, not dealing with mysterious disappearances. "We will need all hands on deck," Captain Maris continued. "Tom, I need you to make sure the engines are in perfect condition. We can't afford any delays on this mission." Tom nodded. "Understood, Captain." "And Rima," Maris added, her gaze turning to the alien warrior. "You'll be on the front lines with the rest of the security team. We'll need your strength and skill." Rima's eyes glowed with a quiet intensity. "I will be ready." With the orders given, the crew quickly dispersed to prepare. Tom and Rima walked out of the briefing room together. The weight of the new mission hung over them, but there was no fear in Rima's steps. She moved with the confidence of someone who had faced dangers before. Tom felt a sense of determination rise within him. Whatever was out there, he would do his part to keep the ship and its crew safe. And as strange as it was, he was glad Rima would be by his side. Back in their room, they began to prepare for the mission. Tom checked his tools and made sure everything was in order. He glanced at Rima, who was already gathering her weapons and gear. "Are you nervous?" Tom asked, watching her work. Rima paused and met his gaze. "I have faced many battles, Tom, but there is something about this mission that feels different. We do not know what we are walking into." Tom nodded, feeling the same uncertainty. "Yeah, I feel it too. But we'll figure it out. We always do." Rima gave him a small smile. Together, the Unity sped through the dark expanse of space, heading toward the coordinates provided by the colony. Tom was working in the engine room, his hands moving quickly as he checked the ship's systems one last time. Everything had to be perfect for this mission. If there was any chance they might face danger, they needed to be ready. Rima was in the training area, sharpening her skills with the rest of the security team. She was calm, but Tom could see the quiet intensity in her eyes whenever they crossed paths. She had never seemed as serious as she did now, and he knew she was thinking about the unknown danger ahead. The ship's intercom buzzed, cutting through. The noise of the engine room. "Attention, all crew members. We are approaching the colony system. Prepare for arrival." Tom tightened the last bolt on the control panel and quickly left the engine room, making his way to the bridge. Rima was already there, standing tall at her usual spot beside the security officers. Her eyes met his, and she gave him a brief nod. "We're almost there," Tom said, adjusting his tools. "Let's hope everything goes smoothly," Rima replied, her voice steady. Captain Maris stood at the front of the bridge, her gaze focused on the star charts ahead. "We'll be entering the colony's orbit in a few minutes. Everyone stay alert." Tom couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The disappearance of the ships, the strange signals, it all felt like they were walking into a trap. But there was no turning back now. They had a mission to complete. As the ship neared the colony, the atmosphere on the bridge grew tense. The lights dimmed as they entered the colony's orbit, and the screens displayed the quiet emptiness of the system. There were no other ships in sight, no signs of life. "Captain, we're in orbit," the communications officer reported. "No ships detected in the area." "All right," Captain Maris said, her voice sharp. "Tom, Rima, get ready. We're sending a small team to investigate the colony. Stay cautious. We don't know what we're dealing with yet." Tom grabbed his toolkit and gave Rima a glance. "Let's go." The two of them, along with a few security officers, boarded a smaller shuttle and prepared for their descent to the surface. As the shuttle descended through the planet's atmosphere, the colony came into view, an eerie, abandoned city stretching across the landscape. The buildings were tall, but there was no sign of life, no movement. It was as if the colony had been frozen in time. Rima scanned the area, her eyes sharp. "This is not what I expected," she muttered. Tom felt the same unease in his chest. "Something's wrong. We should be careful." The shuttle touched down on a large open square near the heart of the colony. The air was still, and the silence was almost suffocating. Tom and the team disembarked, their boots clicking softly on the pavement. The streets were empty, but there were signs of life, buildings still standing, vehicles parked as if people had just disappeared. "Stay close," Captain Maris ordered, her voice steady but tense. "We're going to check the central command center. It might have answers." Tom and Rima followed the group, their steps cautious. They entered a large building at the center of the colony. Inside, the walls were lined with old computers and equipment, their screens dark and lifeless. There was no sign of any colony workers or residents. It felt like a ghost town. Tom approached one of the terminals and started working, trying to access any data left behind. His fingers flew over the keys, but the system was locked. He frowned, frustrated. "Is there any way to get in?" Rima asked, looking over his shoulder. "I'll try a few more things," Tom replied, determined. "There's got to be something." As he worked, Rima kept watch, her hand resting on the hilt of her blade. The silence in the building was unnerving, and every creak and groan of the structure made Tom's skin crawl. He couldn't help but feel like they were being watched. Finally, after what seemed like hours, Tom broke through the system's security. The terminal flickered to life, and a series of messages appeared on the screen. He quickly scanned through the files, his eyes widening as he read. "There's something here," Tom said, turning to Rima and the others. "The colony's systems were hacked. It looks like someone, or something, has been manipulating the signals, causing the ships to disappear." Captain Maris stepped forward, her face hardening. "What does that mean for us?" Tom swallowed hard. "It means we're not alone." Rima's eyes narrowed and her grip on her blade tightened. "Then we fight." The team stood in tense silence, the room heavy with the weight of Tom's discovery. They were not alone. Something or someone was behind the mysterious disappearances of the ships and the strange signals. Tom turned back to the terminal, his mind racing. "This isn't just a random attack," he said, his voice steady but filled with concern. "It's planned. They've been watching, waiting." Rima's eyes narrowed. "What is their goal?" Tom ran a few more commands, trying to access any further information. Finally, a new window popped up on the screen. A series of coordinates and encrypted messages appeared, followed by a final chilling command. "Target acquired. Awaiting signal for Phase 2. "This doesn't look good," Tom muttered. Captain Maris stepped forward, her voice firm. "Whoever did this is planning something bigger. We need to find out what these coordinates mean and stop them before they strike again." Rima crossed her arms. "We should go to the location now. They cannot be allowed to continue." Tom nodded. "Agreed, but we need to move quickly. The system might be a trap." With little time to lose, the team made their way back to the shuttle. The colony's eerie silence seemed to follow them as they boarded, heading toward the coordinates displayed on Tom's screen. As they lifted off, the vast emptiness of the colony below them was a constant reminder of the danger that loomed ahead. The shuttle cut through the atmosphere and flew into deep space, heading toward an uncharted area. Tom felt a cold chill run through him as the shuttle moved deeper into the unknown. There were no stars here, no sign of anything, just the endless void. "This place feels wrong," one of the security officers muttered, his voice tinged with fear. "I agree," Rima said, her voice low. She was always calm, but Tom could sense her wariness now. They had no idea what awaited them. The shuttle slowed as they approached the coordinates. A large, dark mass appeared on the radar. It was a ship, an enormous alien craft, hovering quietly in the dark. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, with sharp, angular edges and a dark, reflective surface that seemed to absorb the light around it. "Is that a weapon?" Tom asked, his eyes fixed on the screen. Captain Maris nodded grimly. "It's something, all right. Everyone, prepare for anything." The shuttle approached cautiously, its engines humming as they closed in on the massive craft. It was a ghostly presence, cold and silent like the grave. As they neared, the shuttle's systems began to flicker. Tom's fingers danced over the controls, trying to regain control. "We're being pulled in," he said urgently. Rima's hand moved to her blade, her instincts sharp. "We're too close. This isn't just a ship, it's a trap." Before anyone could respond, a flash of light erupted from the alien ship, enveloping the shuttle in a blinding glow. The crew gasped as the world outside the shuttle became a blur. Tom tried to hold on to the controls, but they slipped from his fingers, and the shuttle was dragged closer. They were inside. The shuttle landed with a rough jolt, the ship's hull creaking and groaning as they touched down on a cold, metallic surface. The crew immediately unbuckled, drawing their weapons and preparing for whatever was next. Captain Maris gave the order. "Stay alert. We need to move quickly and find out who's behind this." Rima led the way, her steps silent as she advanced into the darkness of the alien ship. The walls were covered in strange symbols that seemed to shift and change as they walked, casting eerie shadows across the cold corridors. The air was thick with an unsettling hum, and Tom felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. They moved cautiously, their weapons raised. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the ship's intercom system. It was distorted, alien, and yet oddly familiar. "You should not have come here." The voice sent a shiver down Tom's spine. Rima's grip on her blade tightened. "Who are you?" Rima called out, her voice strong and demanding. The voice laughed, a cold, mechanical sound. "I am the one who controls this ship. You are too late to stop us." The lights flickered, and a massive figure emerged from the shadows. It was tall, armored, and had an aura of power that was almost suffocating. Tom's heart raced. This was no ordinary enemy. It was a leader, a commander. "We will stop you," Rima said, her voice full of resolve. The figure's eyes glowed red as it stepped forward, its presence overwhelming. "You may try, but you will fail. The phase is already in motion. You cannot stop it." Rima stepped forward, ready for the fight. "We'll see about that."